Derrick Lewis, Curtis Blaydes, and I don't know how you felt about it, but to me, it was everything. Heartbreaking loss. It had it all. It had it all. And
Yeah.
and an uncrowned number one contender, a dude who looked better than dude. When did Curtis Blaydes learn to strike like that? His striking looked awesome. His footwork, his volume. He was beating Lewis in the striking.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
he honestly, I don't know if he has the type of striking pace because we know he can go 25 minutes. I mean, he can go all night wrestling. It's what he does, but I don't know if he has that type of striking endurance. I bet he does because he looked physically in really good shape as well. But he probably could have never shot a takedown the entire fight and won a decision.
yeah. Yes, I remember not that long ago, Curtis Blaydes TKO'd JDS standing up in a stand-up only affair in a main event. Took him out on the feet. Um, yeah, you wrapped it up really good with how it had a little bit of everything. I mean, you had a crushing defeat for Curtis Blaydes, a guy who was, I mean, this fight was made as a win for him against a guy that didn't have good wrestling, has very bad wrestling. That would be a nice way for him to wrestle his way to victory and cement himself as the number one contender at heavyweight. No, that's not how it happens at heavyweight. You shoot one sloppy takedown in a fight that you were dominating, and you get flatline dead. Um,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
all
and
honesty, though, like that's probably the best thing that could have happened for the division. I mean, we talked about it before. Curtis Blaydes was in a bad situation of having beaten everyone else except for Francis, positioning himself like right outside of number one contender status, and then looking down the barrel of not getting a title shot for the rest of the year. So, in all honesty, Derrick Lewis winning probably best case scenario for the UFC. Take out Curtis Blaydes as your number one contender. Derrick Lewis has no interest in being the number one contender. He's talking about wanting to fight Overeem, who just got knocked out. So yeah, it was great. Brutal knockout from Derrick Lewis. Love those. The man's a knockout machine. Just stands up whenever he wants. Crushing defeat for Curtis Blaydes, but at the same time, Curtis Blaydes, super young guy for the heavyweight division, very young guy. He will still be here when the Derrick Lewises and the Overeems and the Stipes are all gone in the next couple of years. Curtis Blaydes is looking at like potentially another 5 to 10 years in the heavyweight division if his career goes on the trajectory that it's been on. That being said, he could hit a rough patch and get booted out the door real quick because, as we've explained, he does not have a very good relationship with Dana White.
no, and that's the thing about Curtis Blaydes is he's very much a John Fitch heavyweight, where if he wins, he keeps his spot. But if Curtis Blaydes loses, it doesn't even have to be a lot. I believe John Fitch lost once,
Yeah, it was
or he
one
lost. Yeah, he lost. He got knocked out by Johnny
Johnny
Hendricks,
Hendricks. Yeah,
and then got cut
yeah,
because he was not doing so great with the boss man. And when you've never spoken to the boss man, you don't even have the opportunity to put your best foot forward. And then also, you've never spoken to the boss man, and the only impression he has of you is that he's pissed that you did a shitty fight, and also he knows you talk not good about fighter pay. So all the things, all the things that Dana White hates most are on your shoulders. So for a fighter like Curtis Blaydes, who isn't, it's one of those things where he's not even particularly controversial. He's like a really soft-spoken dude and not even really all that bombastic. He's honest about what he thinks he can do with his skill set, but nothing. I mean, he's not Covington running around here. I mean, he's just like, I'm good at wrestling people, and Yeah, for the first round, well, as long as it lasted, I thought Blades was hitting us with the bait and switch because he looked so good standing up. I was like, this guy's not going to have to wrestle at all. Granted, he wasn't landing anything devastating, but he
But he
didn't
was
have
clearly
to.
winning.
He was clearly winning because Lewis was so clearly just sitting back and being like, all right, I got a knee and I got an uppercut.
That's what he does.
That's what I need here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was and not to, I was heartbroken for Blades, but at the same time, Derrick Lewis just became a major player at heavyweight.
Number two. He's number two in the division right now. It's Stipe, number one Francis, number two Derrick Lewis. He is as high in the division as you can be without fighting for a belt.
Now, let's say that Stipe loses, and he loses in bad way. Okay. Does the UFC dare book an Ngannou Lewis rematch for the heavyweight belt?
I go out on a limb here and say yes. I was debating with some people on Reddit this week about this. I was saying after that performance and as the ways their careers have gone separately since their first fight, I would personally be very interested in a Derrick Lewis and Francis Ngannou rematch at this point. Um,
Yeah,
Daniel brought up a
yeah.
good point. As it's they're both somewhat counter strikers to an extent, but like definitely more so Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis makes no he doesn't lie about anything. He's like, yo, I'm here to land one punch and that's it. All I need is one strike and you're dead. Francis, just goes running, the motherfuckers throws his hands like a madman. Um, yeah, I absolutely would be interested in that rematch. I just do not think that it would go the same way. And if it does, whatever. It's like we're at a point where that rematch I think is inevitable. I mean, you can't deny it if the guys are at the very top of the division. Um, yeah, I mean, like all these fights are interesting, dude. Imagine Derrick Lewis versus Stipe or Derrick Lewis versus John Jones. Derrick Lewis versus John Jones could be like super interesting. I mean, on paper, you'd be
Yeah.
like, nah, not really. I think it could be.
No, I
I think
think it's
that could.
very interesting. I
It
think I think that well, one thing real quick, I was going to agree with you. Um, More like agreement partners podcast because I also would sign up for a Lewis Ngannou rematch because I don't recall seeing them fight. They were in the octagon together for 15 minutes. I don't know who the better fighter is.
Mhm.
Uh, Derek Lewis got his hand raised, but and also it was so boring. It was so boring. It's not like I remember Chet Congo versus Sean Jordan. Okay, I remember that fight for how boring it was. There was a level of inactivity in Lewis Ngannou that I genuinely can't remember. I'm a hardcore fan, and I genuinely like. It's a thing that you have to like. Oh yeah, yeah, they did fight.
Yeah,
So
and I
like the
feel like that's the
casual fan,
sentiment of the hardcore fan base.
yeah,
They're
the
like, oh, we forgot that happened.
casual fan has no idea they fought.
Yeah,
The UFC probably would be better served to not reference it, like just call it a rematch and like the promos and stuff, but do not throw that giant two next to them
mhm,
like they typically do.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, and yeah. I was gonna bring this up after my brain just quit working there for a second. John Jones at heavyweight against Derrick Lewis, I think, is much more competitive than people might imagine.
Oh yeah,
Really, I,
absolutely.
I mean, truth be told, Jones has definitely been clipped at light heavyweight, but they're the reason weight classes exist. If you want to learn why light heavyweight is light heavyweight and heavyweight's heavyweight, do yourself a favor and watch Stipe Miocic versus Fabio Maldonado. That's the reason why weight classes exist. Fabio Maldonado got his head blasted off his shoulders by Stipe. And
Yeah.
Stipe's not even a big heavyweight.
Mm.
He's like 240. Maldonado, I think, was maybe around 220.
Dude, I would even be interested in Derrick Lewis versus Stipe. All three of these fights are interesting to me. I mean, Derrick Lewis versus Stipe, John versus Derrick Lewis, the
I
rematch with Francis.
know, but let's be honest. There is at this point, due to the rhetoric of Jones, there is as much a chance that Jones is his primary concern is weightlifting and he likes to train martial arts sometimes. It's an equal chance that that is his new life than fighting in the UFC at heavyweight. Like I know that there is a lot of Jones's PR as far as where he fits at heavyweight has been an absolute wreck. I was just discussing this today. He's like, all right, take my belt, I'm going to heavyweight. The UFC's like, cool, man. Yeah, that sounds great. And then he's like, actually, I'm not fighting at heavyweight unless you pay me more. UFC's like, okay, man. Well, I mean, you gave up your belt of your own accord and you said you wanted to go to heavyweight. So, I mean, you don't have to, I guess. Then Jones like, well, no, I put on 40 pounds to go to heavyweight. And then the MMA community is like, cool, man, way to go. Can't wait to see you fight at heavyweight. And then John Jones like, hey, I would love to fight for the UFC again. But if the numbers aren't right, just might not never happen. Dude, he has been an absolute PR nightmare. And not in the regular John Jones PR nightmare. Like, no one can get excited for anything because he won't tell us what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it's true. But at the same time, it's like he doesn't know who he's going to fight until this Francis and Stipe rematch gets done. And then after that, no matter what happens, the UFC is well aware of what they have on their hands with John going up to heavyweight. They're going to make that work. A John versus anyone in a heavyweight title fight is a big deal. People will tune in for that, especially if it's against Stipe or a Francis that just knocks Stipe out. They'll get
Yeah.
it. They'll make it happen.
Well, is he not? Didn't he also just put out a thing that he's going to be trying to watch uh Blachowicz Adesanya?
Yes, but that's another thing of him just like he's always getting at Izzy any chance he gets. He got so much beef with Izzy, they just be jabbing each other for no reason. That is a non-factor though. I mean, you can look at John and be like, it'd take forever for that dude to drop the 40 pounds of muscle he just put back on to go back. It's just dumb. The timing doesn't line up on that, but we'll see. You know what happened. You know if Izzy goes out there and just blasts Blachowicz, gets a second belt, and it's just like, John, what up? Let's go. We'll see.
I
I
don't
would, I
know.
would think though, the most likely of all the scenarios though, in my own personal opinion, would be that Izzy goes up to heavyweight chasing John rather than John going back down. Izzy has
So,
fought at heavyweight before, and he has been talking about going up and fighting at heavyweight. And I have a feeling that if he would knock out Blachowicz, the UFC would totally do it. They'd be like, sure, you got 2 belts, go on and fight John at heavyweight for your 3rd belt. Tell me they would totally do that. Izzy would be undefeated, 21-0, 2 belts, and then you match him up against a heavyweight champion, John Jones. Oh my God, it'd be 2 million pay-per-view buys. It'd be insane.
It's just, I mean, yeah, it would, but like, bro,
It's dumb as all hell. I mean, it's dumb.
come on, man. It's like, listen, you can have a, I mean, I love, like, I love how the discussion of Blades Lewis has devolved into this, but listen, again, weight classes exist for a reason. Adesanya walks around at like 210 pounds.
Mhm.
That type of approach, like the Adesanya would be truly special indeed if he can carry his skill set to heavyweight.
Oh,
I'm not sure he'll have the stopping power at heavyweight though. Like,
no, of course not.
no, he's not. And his game, while it's not like a like a slugger type style.
Sniper.
But the sniper hits.
Hmm.
The sniper has to connect. And at 2 weight classes up at heavyweight, that's just such a that is just like, okay, how can I stack all the cards not in my favor?
Yes.
That's
And it's
just
like these aren't even 3 weight classes that are like right next to each other, separated by 10 pounds. It's already going to be crazy enough to see if Izzy can go up to light heavyweight, which, reminder, is a 20-pound gap between middleweight
yeah,
and
yeah.
light heavyweight. If he
We
can go
have
up 20 pounds without putting on any muscle and be able to translate and win against Blachowicz, because the truth is, if Blachowicz wins against Izzy, all that talk is done. There is no interest in John fighting Blachowicz or going back to 205 or anything. If Blachowicz beats Izzy, all that talk is gone. Izzy just goes back to middleweight, and we just move on with our lives. So yeah, that's basically where we are. The heavyweight and light heavyweight and middleweight are all jumbled into a giant tangled mess right now.